Phil, when do we use low density piping and fittings?
Well, really, it's been used a lot in the horticultural industry. Certainly where we need some sort of flexibility. The product still has a relatively high pressure rating, so we can use it in lots of places.
So the density is about loading?
Well, density is a little bit like tensile strength in fencing, for instance, is probably a good rural example. And the higher the density of the material, typically we end up with something with a higher tensile strength. Now what that means practically is that we can use a slightly thinner wall and get a much stronger effect in the pipeline, so higher pressure ratings.
You've got some fittings here, some joiners, they're colour coded to be green because you know that then it's low density.
That's correct, yeah, and we've done that specifically for that purpose. And we've developed quite a large range of that particular product set.
So you've got several sizes as far as pipe is concerned?
Well, in the low density range, it's actually an imperial pipeline, so it dates back to the 1970s. Obviously the material's not exactly the same as it was then, but it's a system that relates to the old nominal bore pipes. So they're 1/2 inch, 3/4, and all that happened when we went metric is we started calling them by metric names. So 1/2 inch became 15 millimetre, 3/4 became 20 millimetre, but the effect is very much the same.
When you're measuring it, is it from the outside or is it the inside?
Well, in this particular pipe type, when we're talking about low density, it's described as nominal bore. So a pipe that is 25 millimetre is nominally about 25 millimetre internal. It's actually 24.9 in our product's case, but very similar to those sorts of sizes. So 32 is about 31.2 internally.
So, but it's the internal piece.
It's the internal dimension. And this has been very, very well communicated, although I think many people don't still understand quite what happened in the New Zealand pipe industry. We went to metric. All of the metric pipes are external dimension in polyethylene.
Oh, that's tricky.
Yes, it is. So what happened was that when the industry said we need pipes bigger than 2 inch or 50 millimetre, they moved to an international standard rather than a New Zealand standard. And what that essentially meant was that everything was described on external dimension.
So if somebody's doing repairs because somebody else, of course, wouldn't have been they, put a mold plough through or a grader or something, they come into Irex Plastics or one of your suppliers. What's the easiest thing? To cut a bit off and say,
well, that would be by far the best way of doing it. Some idea of how flexible the pipe is will give us an idea about really whether it's low density or not. If it does flex a lot, chances are it is low density, in which case this fitting range fits a lot better into that range set.
Because the chances of the person who needs to repair it being the one who put it in,
sure,
pretty remote.
Indeed. In a farming sense, it's really important when you put in pipelines to record, first of all, where they are, and also exactly what pipe type they were. Even keeping the label off the pipe coil associated with your records is another valuable way of doing it.
Put it in the pump shed.
Put it in the pump shed, put it in with where all the drawings are kept for the property, those sorts of things.
So green is low density, we use low density for horticulture?
Horticulture, also in lots of trough systems in sheep and beef are still in low density. It's an easy product to use in the field even when the temperatures are relatively low, and there's a big range of fittings available for that particular pipe type. So when we have a look at the brochure, you can see we actually have a very comprehensive range of fitting choices, elbows, T's, bends, all of those things. And then this particular product, when we have a look at it, we have what is called a running thread. So the nut actually threads its way forward. And whilst it's doing that, the nut is actually threading over the pipe. So when we insert it, the fitting is screwed fully back to the start. We take the pipe, insert that into the product, push it fully up until it stops, and then screw the nut back over the end of it. And that will actually run its way up the pipe, clamping it onto the fitting.
It cuts its way in.
It actually cuts its way on the external dimension, pushing it down onto the barb. So affecting a very, very strong seal.